but I think Manny, at this stage, can rise to that challenge and win the fight.
Crossover star.
I would think probably Manny Pacquiao.
He's 46.
He's 46. He's fought more world champions than most boxers can name in their dreams, and now with the world watching and his legacy already sealed in stone, Manny Pacquiao is stepping back into the ring chasing one more night of glory. But not everyone thinks that's a good idea, because when Bob Arum speaks, the boxing world listens, and what he just said about Pacquiao's comeback has fans excited, worried, and maybe even a little heartbroken. This isn't just another legend returning for a quick payday. This is a man who made history, who walked away after decades of war in the ring and now stands at the edge of something truly dangerous. And Bob Arum, his former promoter, the man who helped make Pacquiao a global icon, isn't holding back his thoughts tonight. We break it all down, the hype, the heartbreak, and the warning shot fired by one of boxing's last living titans.
I think he'll win with movement. I think he'll win by the number of punches that he throws.
Manny Pacquiao.
Manny Pacquiao's return isn't just another retired fighter testing the waters. It's a potential rewriting of boxing history, because if he pulls this off, he won't just become the oldest welterweight champion ever. He'll become the living proof that time doesn't beat every legend. And while most comebacks feel like vanity projects or desperate cash grabs, this one hits different, because Manny's not fighting an exhibition in some distant arena for novelty's sake. He's walking into a sanctioned war against a reigning WBC world champion Mario Barrios, a man who's younger, faster, and riding high on momentum. And right in the middle of all this noise, one voice rises from the past: Bob Arum, the legendary promoter who helped shape Pacquiao's entire rise to superstardom, now stepping forward not just to endorse or condemn, but to speak with the authority of someone who's seen what happens when great fighters push too far past the edge. This is bigger than just a fight. It's a collision between legacy and reality, between nostalgia and consequence. And when someone like Arum breaks his silence, it means there's more at stake than just a title. There's history in motion, and maybe even tragedy looming in its shadow. It started not with a press conference or dramatic announcement, but with something quieter, something more personal, a shift in the way Manny Pacquiao carried himself after retiring in 2021, as if the ring hadn't really let him go, as if every round he ever fought still echoed in his bones, calling him back, not for money, not for fame, but for something deeper, something unfinished. Because while the world watched him trade gloves for a suit, entering politics, trying to build a different kind of legacy for his people, you could still see the fighter behind the speeches, the restless rhythm of someone who wasn't done writing his story yet, even if the world thought the final chapter had already been published. And so he kept training quietly at first, then with more intensity, sparring, conditioning, moving like a man with something to prove, not to the crowd, not to the critics, but to the part of himself that never stopped being a warrior. By the time rumors of a return began circulating in late 2023, they weren't met with disbelief. They were met with curiosity, with cautious excitement, with that feeling fans get when an old flame reignites. And you wonder, is this really happening again now, with Freddie Roach once again in his corner and footage leaking of blistering mid-sessions, lightning footwork, and a body that looks more like 35 than 45. Pacquiao isn't just returning, he's preparing. This isn't a sideshow, this isn't nostalgia, this is a real fight against a real champion. And whether it's foolish or fearless depends on who you ask, but one thing is clear: the comeback is no longer just a rumor, it's a countdown. And Bob Arum knows exactly what that means. Mario Barrios isn't a warm-up opponent, he's not a cherry-picked name thrown in to flatter a legend's return. He's a dangerous, disciplined, battle-hardened WBC welterweight champion who already knows what it means to survive pressure, absorb power, and dish out punishment with a kind of sharpness that comes from youth. Hunger, momentum. Is not just younger than Pacquiao, is part of a new generation that grew up watching him, studying him, respecting him. And now is stepping into the ring not as a student, but as a potential man who retires a master for good. Barrios isn't built like the fighters Pacquiao used to dance around a decade ago. His range immeasured, deceptively powerful, and fully adapted to today's faster, leaner, data-driven era of boxing. And while he may not have Pacquiao's resume, what he does have is time, energy, and an unshakable sense that this fight could be the moment he carves his name into boxing history. By stopping a living icon, to many he's a safer choice for Pacquiao's return. But that assumption misses a point, because when you're 45 and walking into the lion's den after years out of the game, there is no such thing as a safe fight, not anymore.
Make him miss, make him pay. Make my down and miss, and then there was no reaction after that.
Bob Arum.
Arum has seen it all: wars and the ring legends rise and fall, kings dethroned in a single round. And when he talks about Manny Pacquiao, it isn't just as a promoter or a businessman trying to protect a brand. It's as someone who helped build the Pacquiao mythos from the ground up, who traveled the world with him, sat ringside through his bloodiest victories and hardest defeats, and who understands better than almost anyone alive what this comeback truly risked becoming. When Arum spoke out about Manny's return, his tone wasn't dismissive, albeit it was laced with a heavy blend of admiration and concern, like a father figure watching a grown son walk into a fire he is no longer sure he can survive. He said plainly that he hopes Pacquiao does well, that he wishes him the greatest of luck. But beneath those words is a gravity that boxing insiders immediately recognize, a kind of coded alarm from someone who knows what it looks like when a fighter's heart says go, but their body has quietly started saying no. And while Arum acknowledged Pacquiao still looks good in training footage, still sharp on the pad, still fast in the gym, he also made it clear that sparring is not combat, that controlled environments are nothing like fight night, and that no amount of muscle memory can fully rewind the clock once the lights go up and the crowd roars and the punches start flying with real intent. He brushed off recent rumors about an Amir Khan deal calling them, and clarified that the Barrios fight is what's locked and what's real, and in doing so he drew a clear line between media speculation and veteran reality, reminding everyone that while fantasy sells headlines, the actual fight is what matters, and what happens in that ring won't be softened by nostalgia. Arum has promoted thousands of fights, and when he says age is undefeated, it's not a clever line, it's a truth carved from watching too many greats take one fight too many, from seeing reflexes fade in milliseconds that cost lives and legacies alike. He doesn't question Pacquiao's heart, he never would. But he questions the necessity, the motivation, and the wisdom of risking so much at a stage where even the smallest miscalculation can echo forever. And perhaps most telling of all, Arum didn't outright say, "Don't do it," because he knows many wouldn't listen. But by stepping into the spotlight and voicing both his support and concern, he did something even more powerful. He gave us a mirror, one that reflects not just a fighter chasing glory, but a sport that still hasn't figured out how to let its heroes go before they get hurt. And in that mirror, Arum sees history repeating. And maybe this time he just wants someone to listen before the bell rings.
Get up in that age, you can't keep taking punches to the head without it affecting you as you get older. I mean, I really, I'm worried as far as Manny is concerned.
Every comeback carries a cost, but when it's someone like Manny Pacquiao, a fighter who's already achieved everything, the question isn't just about whether he can win again, it's about whether the reward is worth the risk, and what exactly he stands to lose if things go wrong in a way no one wants to talk about out loud, because the reality is Pacquiao's body isn't 25 anymore, and while his hands may still be quick and his instincts sharp, there's a difference between being able to train and being able to absorb clean punches from a world-class fighter without consequences that linger long after the crowd has gone home. If he wins, it's a seismic moment, a 46-year-old former 8th Division champion walking back into the spotlight, defeating a reigning WBC title holder, and redefining what longevity means in combat sports, putting himself in the same late career as Bernard Hopkins and George Foreman, whose final act became their most legendary chapters. But if he loses, and not just on points, but badly, cleanly, violently, it won't just bruise his record, it could alter the entire way his career is remembered, with fans and pundits alike questioning why someone who had nothing left to prove came back and risked everything for one more taste of the raw. Bob Arum knows this dichotomy intimately. He's seen fighters win that one last battle and become immortal, and has also seen them carried out under bright lights, confused, stunned, or even hurt in ways that never fully heal, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually, and that's the heart of the risk. Pacquiao now faces not just a loss, but a loss that could rewrite the ending of his story, not as a lion who walked away on his own terms, but as a warrior who stayed one round too long. Legacy is a fragile thing. Build it for 20 years, and one night can shake it loose. And yet, that's the exact kind of danger that makes legend come back in the first place, because for someone like Manny Pacquiao, greatness isn't measured by safety. It's measured by how close you're willing to get to the edge and whether or not you can still dance there without falling.
But I think Manny, at this stage, can rise to that challenge and win the fight. I think he has.
As soon as Manny Pacquiao's comeback turned from speculation into confirmation, the reaction across the boxing world was loud, passionate, and sharply divided, fueled by nostalgia on one side and concern on the other. Fans who grew up watching him dominate 8 weight classes erupted with excitement, convinced that if anyone could defy time and pull off one more historic win, it's Pacquiao. To them, this isn't just a comeback, It's a continuation of greatness, a chance to rewrite the narrative won last time before the final curtain truly falls. The footage from training camp only added fuel, showing flashes of the old speed, the old rhythm, and the old warrior spirit. But not everyone is cheering. A growing chorus of realists, former fighters, trainers, analysts, and even younger boxers who idolize Pacquiao are voicing the same uneasy question. Is this really about glory, or is it about refusing to let go? Even the son of Mike Tyson stepped into the conversation, sharing concerns that this could follow the same painful pattern so many legends fall into, where one comeback too many ends up rewriting a legacy not with a win but with a warning. Meanwhile, Sugar Ray Leonard weighed in with subtle caution, pointing out the difference between being in shape and being fight-ready, especially after years away from real punishment.
As for Manny, just any advice from him at all?
Just be healthy and do what you think you can. It's a hard thing to do.
Online, the debate is fierce. Some are celebrating the return of a legend, others pointing to the long list of icons who couldn't outrun time. And with Bob Arum now in the mix expressing both pride and worry, this fight has taken on a deeper meaning. It's no longer just about a title or a comeback. It's about the cost of legacy and how far one man is willing to go to protect it or risk it in front of the entire world.
Do it.
Absolutely.
He's a legend. You know, he's a legend. I think he can do it. Absolutely. I mean, it's not going to be easy.
With the
fight now locked in for July 19th in Las Vegas, the countdown has begun not just for another bout on the boxing calendar, but for a moment that feels bigger than titles, rankings, or prize money. This is Manny Pacquiao stepping back under the lights into the pressure and toward a future that could either cement his legend even deeper or rattle it loose in front of millions. The pre-fight road is already buzzing with familiar rhythms, training montages from wild-card gym slow-motion pad work, with Freddie Roach glimpses of sparring partners trying to match his footwork and media sound bites that only add layers to the hype, but behind all of that is a different kind of tension because this isn't the same young Pacquiao sprinting toward the ring with nothing to lose. This time it feels like a story that's circling back on itself, an echo of the same energy he brought into. The De La Hoya fight, the same urgency he showed before Thurman, but now with the weight of year behind him and the eyes of the sport watching every move for signs of brilliance or vulnerability, and Bob Arum's comments have only deepened that narrative not just as commentary from a former promoter, but as emotional context from someone who helped shape the journey, and is now watching it continue without him, both proud and worried his words won't just fade into the background they'll be pulled into press conference questions, media week discussions, and pre-fight commentary reels, because this fight is no longer just about whether Manny can win, it's about whether he still belongs. And when that first bell rings, all the headlines, the opinions, the predictions, they'll vanish, and all that's left will be the truth waiting in the center of the ring. This isn't just a fight, it's a statement, a flashpoint, a test of what boxing still allows its legends to do and what the sport demands from those who refuse to fade. Quietly, Manny Pacquiao stepping back into the spotlight at 46 isn't just about proving he can still move, still punch, and still win. It's about testing whether greatness can truly be timeless, or if the cost of chasing it becomes too steep for even the best to pay. Because if Pacquiao pulls this off, if he defeats a current world champion after nearly 4 years away, it sends a message far beyond the ropes. It tells fighters across generations that the rules of aging are negotiable, that the hunger to compete doesn't have to die when the press stops calling. It shifts what we think is possible at the edge of an athletic career. But if the result is brutal, if the risk overtakes the reward, then this fight becomes something else entirely, a cautionary tale. A reminder that boxing isn't a place where legacies are gently preserved. It's a battlefield that demands everything, even from those who've already given it all. And either way, what happens on July 19th will ripple outward into future matchmaking, into how comebacks are judged, into how fighters weigh pride against permanence. Because this isn't just about whether Manny Pacquiao can still fight, it's about what the sport allows its heroes to become champions. Again, or symbols of what we should have. Let's stay in the past, a furious assault back. So here we are, less than a month away from what could be one of the most unforgettable, unpredictable nights in modern boxing. A living legend stepping back into the fire, not because he needs the money, not because he craves attention, but because something inside him refuses to be done. And as Bob Arum watches from the sidelines, half hopeful, half haunted, we're all left to wonder what kind of ending this fight will write. Will it be a final blaze of glory? The kind that cements Pacquiao's story as the greatest comeback ever told, or will it be a hard lesson in knowing when to walk away? Either way, the countdown is on, and you don't want to miss what happens when the bell rings and history steps back into the ring. Hit subscribe, drop your predictions in the comments, and we'll be back to break down every round the moment this legend makes his return.